I think Sony's making smartphones for a completely different type of person now. And honestly, that might be the smartest thing they've done in years. Because while every other flagship company is chasing the same trends, bigger camera bumps, heavier software, more AI everywhere, Sony keeps doing the opposite. On paper, it almost sounds outdated, but after using the Xperia 1 Mark VIII for a while, I started realizing something strange. This phone feels more intentional than most modern flagships. Not perfect, not mainstream, but intentional. And the weird part is that might actually make it more interesting than phones trying to please everyone, from the first impression, all the way to the final buying decision. The first thing you notice about the Xperia 1 is confidence. Sony clearly does not care about blending in. While most smartphones keep becoming rounder and softer, the Xperia stays sharp, rectangular, and unapologetically Sony. And honestly, I respect that. The flat aluminum frame combined with the matte Gorilla Glass finish gives the phone a clean, professional look. It feels less like a lifestyle gadget and more like a serious tool. The matte texture also helps a lot with fingerprints, which sounds small until you use glossy phones every day and constantly wipe them down. At around flagship weight territory, the phone feels dense and solid without becoming uncomfortable. And because the phone is narrower than most modern flagships, one-handed use feels surprisingly manageable despite the tall form factor. The new camera island design is also interesting. It's larger now, more noticeable, but still understated compared to what Samsung or Xiaomi are doing. That's the thing about this phone. Everything feels deliberate. Nothing feels flashy just for attention. Durability is strong too. You get Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the front alongside IP65 and 68 water resistance. And then there are the details only Sony still seems to care about. A real headphone jack. A dedicated 2-stage camera shutter button. And honestly, once you start using that shutter button for photography, it becomes hard to go back. There's also the toolless SIM tray, which sounds ancient and unimportant until you realize how convenient it actually is. Sony keeps adding these small quality-of-life decisions that make the phone feel built by people who genuinely use their own products. The display is probably the biggest reason Xperia fans stay loyal, because nobody else is really doing this anymore. Sony continues using a 6.5-inch OLED HDR panel. And yes, it still looks incredible. Sharpness is absurd. Photos look detailed. 4K content feels genuinely premium. And movies especially look fantastic here. Sony's experience in professional displays clearly shows. Colors feel accurate instead of exaggerated. Contrast is deep. Black levels are beautiful. And HDR content looks cinematic in a way most phones still struggle to replicate. Brightness has also improved noticeably this generation. Older Xperia phones sometimes felt weak outdoors. That's much better now. Using the phone under direct sunlight feels far more comfortable. The 120 Hz refresh rate also keeps everything smooth. Scrolling feels fluid. Animations feel responsive. Gaming feels fast. But what really makes this display special is the overall tuning. It doesn't feel like a social media display. It feels like a creator display. And that difference matters. Under the hood, the Xperia 1 runs the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 processor, paired with 16 GB of RAM. And honestly, performance is exactly what you'd expect from a modern flagship. Fast, smooth, effortless, apps launch instantly. Heavy multitasking feels easy. Gaming performance is excellent. And more importantly, the phone stays stable under load. That matters more than benchmark scores, because plenty of phones feel fast for 5 minutes. What matters is consistency. And during longer gaming sessions, the Xperia stayed surprisingly controlled thermally. Now this is where things get interesting. Sony's software experience feels almost old school in the best possible way. Android 16 here is extremely clean. Very little bloatware, minimal unnecessary animations, minimal visual clutter, and because the system stays lightweight. The phone feels fast all the time. Interestingly, Sony also avoids aggressively pushing AI everywhere. Yes, features like Gemini and Circle to Search exist, but beyond that, Sony feels refreshingly restrained, and honestly, that may age better long-term. If you continue watching the video until now, you are a very nice person. Thanks to you, my friend. for the battery life and software. Sony hasn't changed the battery capacity in its flagship for some time now. It is rated at 5,000 mAh, like before. We did our standardized testing and got a pretty solid active use score of almost 18 hours. That's definitely a respectable result coming from a battery with such capacity. Sony claims 2 days of battery life on a single charge, and depending on your usage, you can indeed squeeze that out of it. The Xperia 1 still only supports 30-watt charging. In testing, the phone got from 1% to 50% in 30 minutes, and a full charge took an hour and 25 minutes. The Xperia also supports 15-watt wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. Sony promises at least 4 years of battery health, which is pretty great. The Sony Xperia Mark VIII sports a triple camera setup comprising a 48-megapixel primary sensor, a 48-megapixel telephoto, and a 48-megapixel ultra-wide sensor. Up front, it sports a 12-megapixel shooter for selfies and video calling. The video recording is capped at 4K with 120 frames. On paper, those numbers sound normal, but the processing philosophy is completely different. Sony does not chase exaggerated HDR. It does not aggressively brighten shadows. It does not oversaturate colors constantly. Instead, the Xperia tries to produce more natural-looking images, and honestly, some people will love that. Others absolutely won't. Daylight shots look detailed and realistic. White balance is excellent. Dynamic range is strong. But contrast is intentionally heavier than most competitors. That means images sometimes look moodier and more cinematic, instead of instantly social media ready. Personally, I think the photos have character, but they definitely require more appreciation than instant wow factor processing. The telephoto camera is excellent at its native zoom range. Fine details look natural, textures feel organic, and foliage processing avoids the fake, over-sharpened look many phones struggle with. The ultra-wide is another pleasant surprise. Sharpness remains impressive. Consistency between lenses is strong, and unlike many ultra-wides, it actually feels useful instead of secondary. Low-light photography remains solid, though Sony still leans toward realism over artificial brightness. So darker scenes sometimes stay darker. Again, some people will appreciate that. Others may prefer Samsung or Vivo style processing. Selfies on the Xperia are about average. There's no autofocus, so you can forget about sharp close-ups of your face. The HDR processing can be very harsh in terms of sharpening on facial detail, and that seems to be the case in all brightly lit scenes. The Mark VIII can record video up to 4K at 120 frames on all 3 of its rear cameras, right there in the regular video mode. There are 2 levels of stabilization, and you also turn it off if you'd like. In the end, so should you buy the Sony Xperia 1 Mark VIII? Honestly, if you understand what Sony is trying to do here. This phone becomes incredibly interesting because the Xperia 1 Mark VIII is not chasing trends. It's chasing identity. And in a smartphone market where most flagships are starting to feel interchangeable, that matters. Excellent display, fantastic media experience, strong battery life, clean software, unique camera philosophy, and thoughtful hardware decisions. This phone feels built with purpose, and honestly, that's becoming rare. If you enjoy calm, experience-driven reviews like this, consider subscribing. More phones, more laptops, and more honest tech coverage are on the way. And let me know in the comments, would you choose the Xperia 1 Mark VIII, or do you prefer the safer mainstream flagship experience? Thanks for watching, and goodbye.